Hello, you boy in the corner there. You ought to be a Boy Scout. You're a fine-looking fella, and I know you'd make a jolly good backwoodsman by the look of you. You're ugly enough anyway. And you gal there, no, I don't mean you. I mean the pretty one behind you. You ought to be a girl guide, you know. Oh, you are one. Oh, I beg your pardon. That's quite right. Now go on and tell all your pals to come and be girl guides like you. I'm very glad to see you there. Thank you all. Good luck to you, and I wish we may meet again. Thank you.
Through his leadership, Sir Robert Baden Powell established the Boy Scout movement, making him one of the most influential people of the 20th century. The Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts have developed millions of young men and women into leaders and good citizens. The legacy of Sir Robert Baden Powell lives on in the young men and women of today's scouting movement.
Robert Stevenson Smythe Baden was born on February 22, 1857. He was the eighth of the 10 children of the Reverend Baden Powell, who was an Oxford University professor. Robert was an athletic, artistic, theatrically talented, and academically challenged young man. He eventually won a scholarship to Charterhouse School. Robert was not an academic and loved exploring the woods and the countryside around the school. He practiced his woodcraft and scouting skills in the woods, killing rabbits and cooking them, making sure that no one saw the smoke. He really enjoyed having a good time in developing his scouting skills. Despite his dislike for academic subjects, especially mathematics, Baden Powell grew up to become a famous war hero and a role model. His heroic actions at the siege of Mafeking in the Boer War at the end of the 19th century helped him to eventually become a lieutenant general and was granted the title Lord of Gilwell by the Queen of England. However, Lieutenant General Lord Robert Stevenson Smythe Baden Powell of Gilwell is remembered as the founder of the World Scout Movement, the largest youth movement in the world today. On page 1 of the Boy Scout Handbook, scouting is defined as adventure, learning, challenge, responsibility. The promise of scouting is all this and more. Scouting is a program that was started to help boys develop some of the outdoor and leadership skills that they were not learning in school. Over the years, scouting has grown into a program that provides young men and women with opportunities to learn skills and leadership from older and more experienced youths. Boy Scouts is a boy-led program, meaning the more experienced scouts teach and lead the less experienced ones.
From the start, his Army career was outstanding. With the 13th Hussars, he served in India, Afghanistan, and South Africa. Success led to his being promoted at the age of 40 to command the 5th Dragoon Guards in 1897. They benefited from Baden Powell's first training in scouting, and he awarded soldiers reaching certain standards a badge based on the north point of the compass. Today's Scout membership badge is very similar. While Baden Powell was a British Army officer, he discovered that many of his young troops did not have leadership or scouting skills. He said they had never been taught to be men, how to look after themselves, how to take responsibility. Baden Powell also realized that they had learned to read and write in school, but little else. They had no idea of how to find their way using the stars at night, read a map, perform emergency aid, and notice tracks. Baden Powell wrote that he wanted them to feel they were a match for any enemy, to be an efficient, all-around, reliable individual. So by 1899, Major Baden Powell's efforts to help young soldiers led him to write a book called Aids to Scouting for NCOs and Men. In 1908, he adapted the book Aids of Scouting for the use of younger boys and published his new book called Scouting for Boys. 2 years later, he retired from the Army and was advised by His Majesty King Edward III to continue the World Scout movement. After he wrote the first scouting books, his ideas became very popular and scouting spread from England to almost everywhere. In his reflections on the experimental camp at Brownsea Island, he said, "The troop of boys was divided up into patrols of 5, the senior boy in each being patrol leader. This organization was the secret of our success. Each patrol leader was given full responsibility for the behavior of his patrol at all times, in camp and in the field. The patrol was the unit for work or play, and each patrol was camped in a separate spot. The boys were put on their honor to carry out orders. Responsibility and competitive rivalry were thus at once established, and a good standard of development was ensured throughout the troop from day to day. According to Baden Powell, the patrol is the character school for the individual. To the patrol leader, it gives practice in responsibility and in the qualities of leadership. The leadership in Cub Scouts and Boy Scout is very different. In Cub Scouts, the leaders are adult volunteers, and some dens have a Boy Scout leader called a den chief. However, in a Boy Scout troop, the boys elect their leaders. The adult leaders in Boy Scouts are there for support and assistance. Boy Scouts is boy-led. The purpose of Cub Scouts is for boys to develop basic skills with the guidance of adults, and Boy Scouts is designed for the boys to start taking more responsibility and developing their leadership skills. Some of the world's greatest leaders were once Boy Scouts. Many of these men have said that the skills taught in Boy Scouts were important to their later success. Today in the United States, Scouting has been expanded into several groups. These groups are Cub Scouts, which are for boys aging from 7 to 11, Boy Scouts, which is for boys aging from 11 to 18, and Venture Scouts, which is for boys and girls ages 14 to 21.
The World Scouting movement, founded by Lord Baden Powell, grew rapidly, and by 1910 there were over 100,000 registered Boy Scouts in Great Britain alone. Today, throughout the world, there are more than 28 million Scouts in 216 countries and territories. In the United States, there are nearly 3 million Boy Scouts and over 1 million adult volunteers. Many famous Americans have been Eagle Scouts, including Neil Armstrong, Steven Spielberg, Mike Rowe, and President Gerald Ford. In fact, 181 NASA astronauts have been involved in Scouting, while 191 members of the 113th Congress participated in Scouting as a youth, and 28 of them became Eagle Scouts. In 2007, World Scouting celebrated 100 years of Scouting with the 21st World Jamboree in Great Britain. World Scouting Jamborees are held every 4 years in different countries all over the world. In 2013, the National Jamboree was held at Summit Betcher Reserve in West Virginia with over 50,000 Scouts attending. Lord Baden Powell's numerous contributions to the World Scouting movement as an inspirational leader, his 32 books, and personal financial sacrifices are immeasurable. When he was forced to retire due to ill health in 1938, he returned to South Africa. He died there on January 8, 1941, secure in the knowledge that his Scouting movement had a life of its own, and his work to build better boys would not die with him. While many people disagree with the Boy Scout policies on various social issues, such as banning atheists and, until recently, homosexuals, the fact remains that the Scouting program started by Robert Baden Powell continues to develop young men and women into tomorrow's leaders.
All right. Well, my name is Kevin Gill, and I'm a district director with the Boy Scouts of America. Essentially, the Boy Scouts uses the outdoor program to promote leadership, and what we do is we try to develop character in the Scouts through several methods, some of those being just the use of the uniform, the patrol method, and instilling leadership in the young men that are in the program. Lord Baden Powell, actually, you asked about, actually said that the more leadership we instill in the youth, the more that they're going to respond to what we're trying to do. Well, first of all, we're talking about legacy. There's not probably a better one out there to use than Lord Baden Powell. Lord Baden Powell started the Scouting movement in England, and it's been around for over 100 years. And really the basics of what that program is has not changed. Although we adapt to the times, there's new merit badges and things based on modern technology, if you will. A lot of the things that we talk about with the patrol method and having youth be the leaders of the organization has stayed the same. And so what he started over 100 years ago is still being used today across the country and the world.
The Scouting movement, created by Lord Robert Baden Powell of Gilwell, has affected the lives of over 30 million people during the last 100 years. So what is it about his ideas that caught on, and how relevant are they today? From 1912 to 2013, 2.7 million Boy Scouts earned the Eagle Scout rank. In 2014, 51,820 Scouts earned the rank of Eagle. On average, Scout volunteers give 20 hours per month in service to Scouting. Baden Powell's ideas were based on simple friendship and respect for other people, and their views no matter who they were. They were taught loyalty and self-respect. Leadership was promoted through a patrol system, each team with its leader. but the opinions of the whole team being listened to and valued. Team spirit and gentle competition were used to promote achievement, whether it was pitching a tent or cooking a meal over an open fire without pans. Promotions were earned within each patrol, and many patrol leaders moved on to help the troop leaders or to start troops of their own. These values are just as valid today, which is why the scouting movement is still relevant today.